We are deeply sorry about each case where Takata's airbag has not performed as designed, and the driver or passenger has suffered personal injuries or death.
Their airbags explode and they have killed people. This is the bottom line when it comes to the Takata Company and the safety equipment they made and placed inside cars sold here in America. The government wants a recall. Takata snaps back. That would only make things worse. And the inaction on both sides needs to make consumers stand up and demand some people do their jobs. Let's welcome to MidPoint. He is a court-qualified auto safety expert with over 30 years' experience, has appeared before Congress and other governmental agencies, and knows the inner workings of the various industries at hand. Byron Bloch joins us. Byron, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Ed. It's a pleasure to offer some suggestions to the at-risk public.
Let's get some suggestions here and start out with some hardcore news here. Takata says the evidence does not support a national recall. They have defied NHTSA's demand for a nationwide recall. I got to tell you, to the consumer, that seems like, wait a minute, your equipment has killed people and you're saying you don't want a recall. That flies in the face of any apology they could give in front of Congress.
Yes, and clearly, as testified to, excuse me, by even BMW and Honda, they believe also in a national recall rather than limiting the recall to just a few states, in the sort of the deep South, including Florida, by the way, where they say that the humidity affects the chemistry of the airbag propellant the most.
Byron, these are all excuses. That's how it sure sounds to people. So if these are excuses, if Takata says this is not what we want, don't we have a group here, NHTSA, that is supposed to have the power and the government behind them to make people bend to their will here for American automobiles?
Well, a couple points on that. One is NHTSA is highly politicized, unfortunately so, and the agency is rather underfunded. Year by year, it only has, in the Office of Defects Investigation, a very minimal staff and minimal budget. And if Congress really wants to support making vehicle safety a predominant, issue and a good feature for the protection of the American public, then they should provide the sufficient funding to NHTSA so it can do its job more effectively. Second point is these Takata airbags are defectively designed from the inception. They use a terrible propellant, and the propellant, by the way, is what generates the nitrogen gas in large volume instantaneously that fills up the folded airbag and inflates it, causes it to serve as a functioning airbag. Well, the ammonium nitrate that Takata uses is uniquely used by them among all the airbag manufacturers in the world. Nobody else uses it except Takata, and there are internal documents showing that they made that decision partially for cost reasons. It also happens to be the cheapest propellant used by any of the airbag manufacturers. And also it is chemically not stable. It's adversely affected by the temperature cycling, heat and cold, and also by humidity and by aging. And Takata people have admitted that it is adversely affected, and they are trying to blame it on manufacturing processes that they say temporarily were below standard in some of the airbags. But even the replacement airbags, and this is a scary proposition I'm about to say, the replacement airbags, Ed, excuse me, are going to have the same unstable ammonium nitrate chemical propellant in them.
Wait a minute. The replacement airbags, are they also made by Takata?
Yeah, they're made by Takata, and they will have the same bad, cheap, unstable chemical propellant, the ammonium nitrate. So the members of the Senate and the House in today's hearing, for example, did ask, are you replacing the bad Takata airbags, which use ammonium nitrate, which is unstable? Are you going to replace it with the same chemistry? And they said yes. So I think that needs to be further deeply.
The same chemistry in a chemical makeup that killed people. I mean, I'm one of those people who always likes to get down to the bottom of things and doesn't like to use a lot of flowery language. They killed people. I mean, they didn't go out and try to murder someone, but we're talking about here a device powered by a cheap propellant that killed people, and they're willing to continue to move along this line. What can the, oh, wait a minute. I mean, it's stunning to even sit and think about this, if you would, but the couple of minutes that we have here, let me then figure this out. They produce about 300,000 airbag replacement kits a month. You wrote this in Time magazine. Increases maybe to about almost 500,000 or so. At that rate, it would take 2 to 3 years to recall and replace these in 16 million to potentially 30 million affected vehicles in the U.S. Okay, we've scared everybody here right now. A couple minutes we have left. What is the consumer supposed to do when they know there's a good chance it may never get to them and they're driving around with something that could injure them?
Well, I understand and respect that many owners of these affected vehicles are nervous, are scared to drive their vehicles. If you go to some of the Honda dealers and BMW dealers, their witnesses have said that the dealer can provide you with a loaner car or a rental car at no cost to you, the consumer, until your car is repaired. We'll see how that works out.
That's an expensive proposition. I don't see a lot of dealers around America giving away 30 million cars.
Well, but the members of Congress have been pressing the car makers to do something along those lines. But there's yet another possibility that I mentioned in the Time magazine piece, which is also on the internet. And that is, it's fairly easy to reprogram, like you can reprogram your computer, you download software. Well, that could be developed very quickly, maybe within a week to maybe a month. So you would then go to your dealership. While you wait and have a nice cup of coffee, the dealer would reprogram the airbag control module computer that's in your car so that it would take a more severe impact, let's say at 30 miles an hour or higher, for the airbag to be triggered in the first place. And some of the deaths have occurred in lower speed incidents where the airbag went off.
Okay, I'm going to have to stop you there, unfortunately, because we're all out of time, Byron. But we do want to address this again. I want to thank you, but I also want to mention that the article is on Time magazine. Also go to autosafetyexpert.com. That's Byron Bloch's website. You can read more about what he does. Byron, thanks so much for the very, very interesting comments and the insight. We'll talk again soon.
You're welcome, and thank you, Ed, for bringing this to the public.
Pleasure. MidPoint will continue.